Someone is inscribing all of WikiLeaks' infamous Afghan war logs on Bitcoin. Let's mine deep. An unknown project, Spartacus, was formed in an attempt to immortalize on Bitcoin the classified information that the US government has long accused Julian Assange of illegally providing to journalists in the notorious Afghan war diary on WikiLeaks.
That breaking news, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange arrested in London. After 7 years of asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy, the Ecuadorian government released Assange to British authorities, and he could now face charges in the U.S.
The project aims to inscribe the tens of thousands of logs from the Afghan war published by WikiLeaks in July 2010 into the Bitcoin blockchain forever.
If journalism is good, it is controversial by its nature. It is the role of good journalism to take on powerful abuses. And when powerful abuses are taken on, there is always a back reaction. So we see that controversy and I believe that is a good thing to engage in. And in this case, it will show the true nature of this war. And then the public from Afghanistan and other nations can see what's really going on and take steps to address the problems. The significance of this material is both the overarching context, that is, it covers the entire war since 2004.
When these logs were published, they created chaos, not only for the people that were watching them, but for the US media and the country's government.
News organizations began posting a trove of classified documents from the Iraq War given to them by the whistleblower Julian Assange and his WikiLeaks website. It first appeared on the Arab network Al Jazeera.
Found within the files, the real civilian casualties, the prison torture cover-up, the extent of deadly checkpoint encounters.
WikiLeaks is believed to have 390,000 documents, which would make this the largest publication of secret material in history.
Do you know why? Because back then, what was presented by the mainstream media was far beyond the truth.
So far, Katie, what the documents tell us is that the Iraq War was even uglier than we thought.
Meaning it was completely different from what the facts were, and also showed a disturbing insight into what was actually happening in Afghanistan.
We can also see from the Iraqi military and the security services the torturing of over 1,000 people and the lack of intervention for that torture by the United States.
The logs raised a lot of questions about the conduct of the US military operations. They actually accused Julian Assange of working with Chelsea Manning to break into a computer at her military base. According to the charges, the main goal of this alleged cooperation was to help Manning get and share classified information, which was completely false, since it was later discovered that the hacking didn't actually happen. And it couldn't have happened because Chelsea had legitimate access to all the documents she was accused of leaking, and she could have shared them without any technical assistance from WikiLeaks. Chelsea Manning leaked classified documents to WikiLeaks in 2010, which were government secrets. She was arrested, tried, and sentenced to 35 years in prison in 2013. But her sentence was commuted by President Obama in 2017. Manning's case raised a lot of questions about government conspiracy and whistleblowing. So how did WikiLeaks start? In 2006, Assange and a group of like-minded people built WikiLeaks.org, a website that was exclusively for people wishing to blow the whistle on abuse of power. Like George Orwell said, those who control the present control the past, and those who control the past control the future. With the sole purpose to keep the government from altering the truth, Project Spartacus is a revolutionary movement.
And the future of our civilization becomes the future of the internet. We must redefine force relations. If we do not, the universality of the internet will merge global humanity into one giant grid of mass surveillance and mass control.
They're using the Ordinal Protocol to add information to the Bitcoin blockchain, because once the data is on the blockchain, it can't be changed or removed due to being inscribed using a unique type of Bitcoin transactions. The publishing itself remains resistant to censorship just like a normal Bitcoin transaction. The project appears to be motivated by a desire to preserve and protect information, reviving Julian's worldwide movement to mass publicize classified information. This project offers a way for people to add war logs to the blockchain, keeping the First Amendment alive by promoting freedom of press, something the US and its global allies have forgotten since Assange, an Australian citizen, is facing potential extradition to the US for his WikiLeaks works.
WikiLeaks walks like a hostile intelligence service and talks like a hostile intelligence service.
As of June of 2023, he had lost his latest attempt to avoid being sent from Britain to the United States, where he's facing 18 criminal charges related to the release of classified documents. He has spent the past 4 years in Britain's Belmarsh prison fighting for his freedom. If found guilty for publishing the truth, he could face a sentence of up to 175 years in prison. Obviously, Assange's team plans to appeal again. And in reality, he is not in this fight alone. He has everyone's support, including Australian politicians. In September of 2023, they headed to the US to lobby against efforts to extradite him.
The only crime that we see that Julian Assange has been charged with is the crime of being a journalist, the crime of telling the truth. And the fact that it's an Australian citizen that has been targeted by one of our closest friends and allies is a very real concern to us as politicians and to a growing part of the Australian public.
The truth is, if Julian remains in jail, no journalist on earth will ever be safe. Why should you care? Because Bitcoin is not just about money. It can also be used as a way to publish information in a decentralized and unstoppable manner. This allows people to add various types of data, like text, images, videos, or web content to the Bitcoin network without being manipulated. This technology has the potential to be a powerful tool against information censorship and tampering. Don't be fooled and be controlled by the government. Bitcoin is freedom. Don't miss Gabriel Shipton Backstage. How is he? Have you talked to him?
I haven't spoken to him recently, but I'm going to go and see him next week. What I've heard from Stella and my dad is that he's not doing very well at the moment. He's got his final opportunity of appeal in the UK courts, and if that fails, then he gets extradited to the United States. So it is a very, very hard time for Julian with this extradition hanging over his head.
You recently went to the States, and a lot of Australian government officials signed the petition for the US so they wouldn't extradite him. How was that process?
Yeah, look, there's been incredible support in Australia, across the political spectrum. It doesn't matter if you're conservative or liberal or right or left or green. Everybody in Australia just wants Julian to come back home. It's like 9 out of 10 Australians have been calling on the government to actually intervene in this case. Australia is a very close ally of the United States, and our Prime Minister will be in Washington DC on the 23rd of this month, 23rd of October. So I'll be heading back there to continue lobbying and trying to get Julian home. But we've been building this movement for years and years and years, and it's so good to finally have this kind of support from the political class in Australia.
You mentioned building this whole support for years and years. How was it in the beginning when the whole thing went down, when the US wanted to extradite him for violating, it's kind of funny because in the United States we have freedom of speech, which includes the freedom of press, and that's what Julian was doing for everybody. So it's kind of ironic how it's all playing out. How do you guys that are in the other end of the spectrum view it?
Yeah, well, this is it's a blatant attack on the First Amendment. Essentially, it's an attack on freedom of speech. RFK Jr., who's running for president, he said, there is no America without a free press, and there's no free press without a free Julian Assange. And that is exactly right. What they're going after Julian with is able to be applied to anybody around the world, not just in the United States, for publishing national defense material, or any secrets that are embarrassing to the government or the military industrial complex. So it doesn't just affect us and Julian, but it's really about everybody's right to know what their governments do in their name and their right to communicate with each other.
Obviously, Julian Assange speaks for a lot of journalists that are afraid to put their work on the line because of all the repercussions that he's facing right now just for spreading the truth of what's going on, because that's what a true journalist does. Do you think he regrets creating WikiLeaks? Do you think he would still do that?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I don't think, if you look back at these releases and the change that they made in the world, one of the cables, there was a cable that revealed that in Iraq there was a group of soldiers who entered a house and they murdered the entire inhabitants of the house, a whole family of 9 women and children, and then they called in an airstrike to cover up their crime. And so that whole family was obliterated from the earth. Now the Iraqi government, when the releases came out, the Iraqi government saw this cable and saw what had transpired, and they decided not to renew what is called the Status of Forces Agreement, which gives immunity to US troops in Iraq. And so that single cable led to the Obama administration stopping the war in Iraq. And so it's that sort of impact that Julian's work has had to millions and millions of people. He's saved millions and millions of lives through his work. So I think if he went back in time and was able to know what exactly the effect that these leaks and his work would have, he would 100% do it all again.
And how do you feel that now with Project Spartacus, now Julian's work will be able to live on forever in the blockchain?
Yeah, I think I've just come across this project in the last few days. It's a really, it's a new way of publishing to the blockchain, to the Bitcoin blockchain, which, back in 2014, Julian said about the blockchain, about Bitcoin and Bitcoin blockchain technology, that it broke Orwell's dictum. And that dictum is, he who controls the present controls the past, and he who controls the past controls the future. And so publishing this information onto the Bitcoin blockchain will never be able to be changed. It's there forever in a decentralized, distributed way. It can't be interfered with. And I think it's a really cool innovation. And yeah, I hope it goes well. Interesting to watch it and see how it evolves.
So I feel like in a way, society is trying to change the past and trying to make it harder for us. So I feel like having all this data in the blockchain that could never be changed, will always be there, is a great way to put Julian Assange's work out there.
Yeah, it's inspired by Julian, essentially this new way of inscribing information to the blockchain. So yeah, it's Julian's legacy, really. And yeah, people memory holding all types of stuff these days. Like, I don't know if you saw last couple of weeks ago, they're trying to pretend that Nazis aren't Nazis in the Canadian Parliament and things like that. So I think it's really important at this time that new ways of publishing are explored that aren't able to be memory hold or just wiped or edited. So yeah, I think it's really cool in innovation. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about Bitcoin. So given Julian's experience and the impact with WikiLeaks, how do you view Bitcoin's decentralized nature as a tool for freedom of speech and fighting centralized control?
Well, the first thing they come after, the first thing the censors come after is the money, right? They shut off your PayPal. They go out, they tell Visa and MasterCard to stop processing payments for you. Bitcoin fixes that. You can use a decentralized monetary network to continue funding your organization. You can use it to pay your employees, raise funds, do everything that you need to do, pay for servers, all those things that a media organization needs to do to continue functioning if they come under attack, Bitcoin enables. So in that sense, WikiLeaks was the front runner of that and the sort of use case as Bitcoin as uncensorable money.
Do you get scared of speaking out against the government?
Yeah, look, sometimes, but what choice do we have? I'm speaking for my brother who's in jail, and could die there. And so that's the choice that we have to make. And there's lots of people with us now, and we've got lots of support all around the world. So it's not being afraid, I think, is the key thing. Yeah.
And when can we look forward to that special date when we will know Julian's outcome?
Well, I hope it's soon. I hope it's soon. I think we've never been closer to getting Julian out of prison. We've got the support of governments around the world, heads of state, all through Latin America have been speaking out, calling on the US to let Julian go. His own government in Australia, speaking out for him. So we've never been closer to getting Julian free. So hopefully we can see it soon.
Here's a quick news recap of the week. Senator Cynthia Lummis sent a letter to Congress asking the Department of Justice to finish its investigation and consider criminal charges against Binance and Tether, after reports said they served as intermediaries for Hamas and engaged in illicit activities. The Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, is proposing a rule that could make it illegal to use privacy tools for Bitcoin, because they suspect it could be used for money laundering. They want all regulated companies to share customer data with government agencies. This proposal would be framed like the Patriot Act, which allowed the collection of data on US citizens by intelligence agencies. Speaking of data, Kraken is supposed to hand over crypto transaction details to the IRS. The exchange announced to account holders that it will be providing the IRS with customer tax information from the years 2016 to 2020. They want names, dates of birth, taxpayer identification numbers, addresses, and a record of cryptocurrency transactions. The battle to decide who will run Argentina will now take place on November 19. After polls closed, Sergio Massa received the highest number of votes, accounting for 36% of the total. And Javier Milei, pro-Bitcoin, received roughly 30%. The runoff will decide who will lead South America's second largest economy, which suffers from an annual inflation rate of 140%. And a quick recap of the SBF trial. The FTX founder took the stand to testify in his own defense. The decision by his legal team sets him up for a cross-examination by federal prosecutors.
He is found guilty. The move could add years to his sentence. His defense team saying in a letter to the judge yesterday that they plan to show he was operating in good faith. They're going to talk about SBF's intention to comply with authorities down in the Bahamas where he was based, discuss his understanding of industry practices as well. He is expected to face intense cross-examination by the government. He's under oath. If found guilty, legal experts tell me any judge would sentence more harshly if they do suspect the defendant lies in sworn testimony. The judge has enormous discretion, as one expert told me this morning, in that sentencing. There are guidelines, yes, but judges don't have to follow those precisely, and there's already been a history of tension between Bankman-Fried and the judge here, Judge Kaplan, over the summer. He revoked Sam Bankman-Fried's bail, accusing him of witness tampering. He's warned him multiple times before the trial about pushing the limits. He's also scolded the defense team multiple times in the courtroom in the past couple of weeks. The potential upside is persuading at least one juror that Bankman-Fried did not have criminal intent. That is key. One person siding with the defendant would mean a hung jury.
And of course, we have to highlight Bitcoin reaching 35K, not only once, but twice, on Monday and Wednesday. Prices quickly reversed as that level appeared to trigger numerous sell orders. But you know what? Keep stacking that Bitcoin stack.